Develop a fortune state of mind, state of mind. It's time for a date with, time for a date with the Dorseys.
Hello, we are back.
We back.
Yet again. Kind of like, what's his name? Puff Daddy. I don't know what his name is these days. But can't stop, won't stop. He was waiting on that one, y'all.
I didn't know it was coming.
Anyway, we are being rude to the people that are tuning in for the first time. I am Dr. Jatan and
I am Floyd Dorsey.
Hence the date with the door. Oh, the fourth.
Okay.
The fourth. I skipped right over there. We're going to do that again.
That's the rewind?
That's the rewind.
Okay. I'm used to it now.
So that we welcome you as we should. My name is Dr. Jatan and
Floyd Dorsey.
The fourth. Hence a date with the Dorseys. You have stumbled upon, intentionally clicked, or whatever it is. You are here with us on another date with the Dorseys, where we talk about developing a fortune state of mind, and fortune is spelled I-V-T-U-N-E, hence the fourth that we emphasized a little bit earlier there.
There you go.
And by way of 5 pillars is how we enforce and encourage and teach the fortune state of mind. And those 5 F's are family, finance, fitness, faith, and fun. Because you got to have that fun to balance that thing out, right?
You got to have faith.
you got to have all of them. We got both of them in there.
All right.
But yes, this is what we talk about on our podcast every episode. Now listen, you're not going to get all 5 F's every episode. You know, we may dabble in a few of the F's and we may focus on one F. But the point is that you're going to get some tea from all of those 5 F's at some point throughout all the episodes. But you're probably wondering, okay, well, what are we talking about today?
What are we talking about?
Today, we are talking about, really, it's a question. As I was about to recite it, I'm thinking, you know what? This is really a question to you as we then subsequently dialogue about what it truly means, unpack it as we always do. But what is it that jumpstarts your battery? What is it that jumpstarts your battery? Right?
That's an interesting question. So, what battery are we talking about?
Because we're not talking about you pulling out those cables in your trunk. That's probably a little rusty. And
I had some from Dad gave it to me before I went out to college.
Yes, me too. And still don't know how to use them. But that's another topic. So, with that question, that is not how I jumpstart my battery, because I wouldn't know how to use those.
That's a good point.
But the battery we are talking about is your battery of emotion, motivation, inspiration, right? Yeah. How do you jumpstart those batteries? And if you didn't know, now you know those are batteries. Those are things that keep you going, keep you energized in life and about life.
And you have to recharge them.
You have to recharge them.
Because if you're really putting in the work and doing what it is that you say that you do, because all of the people that's listening to us have some success to one degree or another. Yeah. So it's something that you're going to use, meaning the energy, right, that you're going to put out, that's going to need to be replenished one way or another.
Right, right.
So how do you recharge it? I think, there are 2 ways.
Okay. Break it down for us, brother.
Okay. All right, I'm with you. Walk with me now. So, I'm sorry, y'all.
I threw him off, y'all.
I just never been a brother to her, It's just a little weird. But I'm going to go with it.
Brother husband.
Okay. We go with it. So there are two ways. Right. So if you think about a battery, and we're talking about an actual battery, there are 2 ends. There's the positive and there's the negative. Right? And both have their uses, both have their purpose. And in that same way, we all have that within our lives. But I would say from a negative, some of us are driven by the avoidance of negative consequences, meaning that we will work a job or go to a job because we just don't want to get fired and we don't want to be put out of our house, or we don't want to lose our house, or we don't want to lose our car. And for some, that is great, and it drives them, and they are able to achieve some level of outcome that they're seeking to achieve. But the challenge with that is you're carrying in your mind and in your thoughts and in your day-to-day the fact of, I don't want to lose. It's like a fear factor that becomes inherent with that particular disposition. On the other end of that battery is the positive end. This is the perspective of which I'm going out because to work because I'm looking to achieve millionaire status in the next 10 years or whatever that may be, right? You're driven by something, a goal or something that's continuing to fuel you in a more of a positive mindset. Mm-hmm. Yes, the same outcome or the same consequences could happen in both of those parties, that they could both lose their job. But one of which has, in some way or another, they're dealing with the loss of a job in their day-to-day coming from that negative end of the battery, while the other is focusing on achieving their goals, so they only experience it when it actually happens. Right? And so when we look at that battery, those are the two ends. So the question on the table is truly for everyone, what's charging you to move forward, to take action, to drive towards your greatness? And we'll unpack it a little bit further. We'll break it down, but I really want to really couch the conversation based on those two principles. If you think about a physical battery and those two ends of it.
That's interesting. I like the way you broke that down for us. Non-brother, husband. But as you were saying that, I was just thinking about how it's important to understand that thoughts become things. And as you were kind of describing how the one person would go into the job or the workplace with this negative energy about them, negative thoughts, negative end game expectation. And so if that's your everyday rigmarole, what do you expect to play out in your life, right? And if you're so engulfed in that negativity, even if something positive did come about, you wouldn't see it because you're so engulfed in the negativity.
Could you really celebrate and appreciate?
Could you?
Because you're so
because you're so bitter. Okay. You can't get better.
All right, my sister.
Oh, now we brother and sister.
Okay. By the end of the call, we'll be best friends. We'll be, husband and wife. Who knows where this is going to go? But it's good.
It's all kind of ships, relationships around up and through here. But yeah, I was just thinking about it from that perspective. And even for the positive person, right? The same thing goes. The more that they continue to think and believe positive things, even some of the things that they did not think were feasible, or that they weren't, I won't say that they didn't think was feasible, but the things that they weren't planning to happen, even though they were being positive, they may have positivity or success painted a certain way in their mind, but they're so positive and they're so engulfed in their positivity that an even bigger thing that they couldn't even fathom comes about.
So the upside is much higher. Yeah. And you're priming yourself and positioning yourself for a better upside. Versus the other is you're keeping yourself, the energy of yourself down at the bottom. A thought, and I'm sure many of you thinking it, and I love to entertain it, but it is the thought that, and you may have heard some of your greatest athletes say this, is that I hate losing, right, more than I love to win. Right? And it's that same mindset of what's driving you. And I come from that perspective that it's to each his own, but I do want to put out thought on both sides and both of the spectrum. I hate to lose more than I like to win or love to win. Now, let's think about that. If I hate to lose, more than I love to win, that means a tie is sufficient for me. Because I didn't lose in a tie, but I didn't win either. Right? And that's satisfying. That long as I did not lose, I'm okay. When you're coming from the perspective of I love to win, a tie no longer is sufficient because I didn't win. I'm shooting for the stars, in other words, and anything less than that is not sufficient. So with that perspective, for those that really embrace that idea of I hate to lose, and that's what drives me, I would really challenge that to say then a tie is sufficient in your case. And is that really what you're after? And I don't know how far you'll go in the playoffs, or if you're talking about the NFL, how far you'll go with a bunch of ties when other people have some wins in the W column. So again, it's that perspective that we must really begin to really shift if that works for you. Now, again, I say to each his own, but from that vantage point, really think about what's driving you.
Wow. Okay. So what is it that's really driving you? So when you say that, what is your recommendation for someone who is trying to decide or determine that thing? What are some things you would recommend, or maybe some things you've done to help you do so?
For me, it is, and what I say to anybody is, what outcome are you truly seeking? What's the goal? Or really, where are you trying to go? And I hope for many people, the goal is not, I hope the goal is not to just not fail, right? I hope that mindset is not the goal. Because if you go through, of course, you'll somewhere along the way, you're going to fail and you're going to meet that point. But for me, the driver is, what are the core principles, those core tenets of my life? What's the outcome that I seek to have? And again, as you know, the core tenets are those 5 F's. And that outcome is I have a stretch goal, and I understand I track against that goal. And so for me, it helps to keep that perspective, to see it, to think it, to feel it, to live it, and ultimately to become it. And in my being or becoming it, I understand that the manifestation of those things will occur. So aligning myself to my core tenets and my principles, making sure that they're clear, understanding the outcome, and shooting for it. But I think even for you, and I'll challenge you this from a parallelpreneurship standpoint, right? And you have many people that are out there that are looking to take an entrepreneurship route while they maintain their job or whatever it may be, or whatever they're doing. So I would challenge just those that are pursuing that is, how do you truly balance both, and what fuels you or anyone else or that you would recommend or coach or talk to keep it going? Because in that spirit, you're saying it's natural for people saying, oh, I hate going to my job, but I just want to spend time in my business. I love my business. So I'll do my job just so that I don't lose it, right? Just so I can keep going. Like what's the appropriate, I wouldn't say appropriate, but what's the best vantage point that you would share, I think, to reach the desired outcome for someone in that situation? Thanks
for that question. I welcome that. So for those of you who don't know, I do coach parallelpreneurs. That is my niche, right? And it's truly because I understand the importance of doing both, especially if you are unsure about exactly what type of business you want to start. If you're just starting out, there are many reasons why it's a benefit to even continue to work a job while you're building your business. The main win, I would say, is that your job or your career, whatever you'd like to refer to it as, is technically your private investor. And without thinking that way about your career or your job, you would always think of it as a hindrance, or it's taking away time from what you could be doing on your business. But think about it as, this is money I'm making to better assist me in financing my business until it finances itself. And so now I don't have the struggle, strain, and strife of figuring out how do I pay my bills if I quit my job and I just willy-nilly start this business.
That is a real good perspective. I like that. Because you hear so often that, some people, they'll take a job or they'll go bankrupt or they're sleeping in their cars or whatever it may be. And that's all.
If that's your story, that's your story. Yeah.
Hey, kudos to those that are able to take that route and go forward. But you came from a real good, fresh and compelling vantage point that I am inspired by my business and I'm inspired to do the work of this career or profession or job that I'm going to. Because one, that job is a private investor that will help fund the business that I'm ultimately looking to do or that I'm doing now, right? It's the private investor. So it's not a hindrance. It's truly one that's enabling me to be able to really go that route. I like that.
Mm-hmm. I think it was Jim Rohn that said something. I'm probably going to butcher it. Rest in peace, Jim, but I'll do my best with this. But he said something to the effect of work full-time on your job and part-time on your passion until your passion becomes your full-time. And that's a good way to think of it. Like you can work both of those, but you're part-time on your business and you're full-time in your career because those things work in parallel, hence the parallelpreneurship, right? To where you can then better navigate this whole side business thing to where it's on a stronger foundation and that you can gradually progress to the level that you need to. But also you don't want to get too comfortable to where you feel like, you're going to manage both of those because ideally, you want to give 100% to that one thing so you can be successful at it because it can be a lot of work to manage it both. So it's important to manage your time too and understanding how much time you can truly dedicate to this business because you still have to do your job as an employee.
So if you had a different mindset coming from what you just laid out, if it was the mindset of, I have to go to this job, it's painful. I was dealing with these people, boy, it's painful, and I just rather let me just do my business. I just want to do that. How will that then impact or affect if you carried that? How would that impact you or anyone else?
Me personally.
Yeah, you personally or anyone else that's taking it out if they had that mindset.
Now listen, I wasn't always in the mindset that I am now, so I can completely understand that question.
Good. Let's hear it.
So I think what helped me is just really thinking about in my career, how am I already or how can I in the future tie this into those things that I'm passionate about in my business. Now, be careful to make sure there's not a conflict of interest.
Of course.
Right?
Yes.
But how can I, even with your resume, right? If you're posting out for another job, you want to make sure that your resume and your job and your skills and all of that are transferable.
Right. Okay. So
you start thinking about how are these skills that I've had in my career, how are these transferable to my business, and how are the skills that I'm using in my business transferable to my career, so that you can find the intersection between the two and be more excited about, more enthusiastic about those days. And sometimes it may not be that your career or your job, I like to say both because some people feel like it's just a job while others feel like it is a career. But when you have that clarity, when you go to your job every day, then you're like, I have the opportunity to help people. I have the opportunity to present or whatever that thing is. Now you're seeking those, even if it's minor, those opportunities to do what you love at your career, that you will also be able to shine in your job.
That's nice.
I'm sorry, in your business.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay. So it really is truly coming from what's the vantage point, and it really helps drive and keep you focused and keep you driven on the perspective. And it's taking all the fruits from both sides. Of course, to your point, no conflict of interest and things of that nature. Be careful with that as you balance your parallelpreneurship journey. But it is important to say what skills, what talents, what developments, what knowledge, I guess, especially about knowing yourself and how you can interact in both sides and be able to leverage and use those skills to help further you along the way. It's very important. I know quite a few people that really are probably in jobs that I just don't want to do. I hate it, and whatever it may be. And I'm just going to go here because I don't want to lose my house. I don't want to lose my car. And it really can take you down this spiraling path of just doing enough so that you don't lose.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the mindset that you get. I'll do just enough not to lose. But you're missing out on all the opportunities on how much more can I do to gain. Yeah. Right. What do I have to do to go above and beyond? How can I exceed expectations or even my own expectations? What can I put in to get that type of outcome versus what's the minimum I have to do to not lose?
Yeah. And I think when people think that way, they really get, I guess this kind of goes back to my point earlier, but they really get in their own way. Because they are thinking so negatively that they don't even realize how they're stifling their potential or their growth, because they don't see that where they currently are has anything to do with where they want to go. So they're not making the intersection or the correlation between where they are and where they want to be. It doesn't always fit in like a puzzle piece. And sometimes you have to really, truly dissect what it is that you're doing and where you are currently. And it, again, may be the smallest things, but you could say, wow, that's going to help me to do so-and-so later. That thing that I wanted to do, I didn't realize, it could be, I could tell you an example. Like, I know in corporate, a lot of organizations allow for you to take different courses to do, project management. It could be the basics, the foundation, or it could be time management or whatever that thing is. Right. And you say, well, why do I want to do that? I don't need that in my job right now. But you want to start your own business. Okay. Yeah. But you want to start your own business. And you don't see that this is an opportunity that the company that you're a private investor, is offering you for free to take these courses to get this skill under your belt that you can now cross over into your business.
Yeah, that's a real good point. I know some people have to interface and deal with a customer. Maybe they're dealing with customer service or really customer facing. They probably really don't like it. It sucks for them if they're on the phones or things of that nature, having to do a lot of that. Or people who are having to do a lot of meetings. Right. And they're doing it grudgingly. Like, I'm always in meetings, all this, one thing or another, not knowing that this is the perfect opportunity for you to really work on your people skills or whatever that is from a relationship standpoint, whether it's your internal or external stakeholders, so that whenever you are doing your own business, you're going to have to interface with people to either sell your product, to market it, to advertise it, or to even solve problems, challenges that you may be having, that you may have going on. Right. And that is the perfect opportunity to refine those skills, especially your communication, verbally and written.
Yeah. So what if you need to really pitch to a bank to get a loan or something, right? So for you to not be open to taking on special projects that allow you to present or to pull together a deck or things of that sort. That's right. You're not thinking about what this truly means for you. Like, this is a skill, not only that you can add to your resume, that you really, truly know now, that you can repurpose and do again for the benefit of your business or even another position later, whatever it is, right? But you have to look at your now, regardless of how bad it may look, how negative you may feel about it. What is it in this moment that I can take and make it a big moment, make it a win?
That's it. I really have to transform my perspective, to transform the situation or the moment and everything, to really keep it going in a direction. Because as we know, with every positively charged battery, there are elements that will drain it. You will do things, you will work, and it's going to drain. We never said it was going to be easy. Right? So you want me to stay positive, even though I'm running low. So what do I do about that? I have this positive perspective, but things are happening that are taking away the charge that's in my battery. What do I do?
Well, we can't ignore those things, right? And we're all going to have moments. So you're entitled to your moment, but don't stay down, right? As they say, when you get tired, rest, but don't quit. So you want to accept the fact that this thing is happening, but don't get too caught up in.
Don't be consumed by it.
Don't be consumed by it. But, you cry, okay, now let's get this over with. What do I need to do to make this better? What can I pull from this lesson? And some people have, I'm just going to refer to it as a grieving moment, but it depends on whatever it is that the negative thing is. You're entitled to your grieving moments, right? So however long that takes you, but you don't want to stay down.
That's it.
Right?
That's it.
So let's drop those tears. Let's fight the air, punch the air, whatever you do in your grievance. But then what are we going to do to make this a positive thing? How can we build from this?
And one thing I'd say for everyone, while you know that in life there's going to be challenges. And again, we'll go back to the point we made earlier is that, to each his own, whatever you're driven by, the avoidance of negative consequences or the possibility of the positive high potential outcome. That's to each his own. But I will say one thing to keep in mind is your battery is going to run low, and you need to know where do I go, what do I do, how do I get that charge, what are my resources, what are the tools, whatever that routine or that pattern is, to really get back charged so that you can maintain that focus and that perspective. To some, it's just keeping those jumper cables in the back of the car, and you may have to hitch them to some random person passing by. Sometimes that happens, right? But to some, it may be
that's that accountability part. That's it.
There you go. Or for some is I keep a spare one of those mobile charging things that I keep it in the back, so I know if I'm running low, all I have to do is go plug it in and I'm ready to go. It's more you're prepared, and it's more internal. Right? It's something you keep internal to yourself. While on the other end, it may be things outside, and you need someone, you need that support system, you need that network of people to be able to lean on. Let me get that charge. And
he got me rocking over here, y'all. He preaching.
I'm just saying, this is life, right?
When you said that, it made me think of something else, because you got the person, as you said, that you may have to flag someone down to come, hey, help a sister out. Or maybe, I got my jumper cables, I got my little extra doohickey that does whatever to my battery.
Doohickey, right?
But then, you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay, y'all ready for? Oh, y'all can't talk back to me right now, but that's okay. I know you're ready. So you also have the person whose battery that's running low, and they figure that putting gas in the car is gonna recharge the battery, or putting air in the tire is going to recharge the battery.
No,
you have no clue of what's going wrong, why you can't.
And not only that, you're diagnosing it to be something else, and you're serving something that doesn't necessarily
resolve the yes.
How often do we spend our time on things?
Don't have nothing to do with nothing.
Nothing to do with nothing. All right. We will blame so many different things. We'll lash out. Do so many other different things when the problem is you need a charge here. And instead of understanding that you need a charge, that's, I guess, the first thing.
Right.
Before you start using the tools and going to people to do that, you have to really know that you have a problem here. And from there, taking the action to resolve it. But you got to know.
You got to know. So if you're just tuning in, we're talking about, or really the question was, how are you jumping your battery? How are you jumpstarting your battery, to be more specific? So we've been dissecting this topic in many different ways, just talking about how, you got the negative and you got the positive on that good old battery of yours. And we just need to know, how are you recharging? How are you jumpstarting that thing when it dies on you, right? Because it will, and it has, and it will again, I'm sure.
Yeah, and just for the record, we are the batteries.
Yes, we are the batteries. However, we are driving these points home in a way that illustrates, paints the picture, helps you better even understand and apply it to your life. So with that, if you want to follow us, do so on Instagram and Facebook at Dem Darn Dorseys, DEM Darn Dorseys, or you can email us at support@fortuneenterprise.com. That's IVTUNE enterprise.com. Whew, this has been a good one. I had to take a breath on that one.
Take a breath to breathe. No, it really is a great thought, and I love to revisit this one again in the future as we can. I'm sure we can go on and unpack it in so many different ways. But truly, it is really understanding yourself, knowing yourself, and knowing what fuels you. And if you're fueled by the positive potential, I would ask you to understand why and what is it that's taking you down that road. And if it works, continue to really invest into that thing that's taking you down that path. Mm-hmm. And conversely, if it's the avoidance of the negative outcome, I would ask the same question as why, and look into it and question it. And this helps you really understand yourself and some of those things, so that when you do face a time where I'm out of charge, I'm running low, that you don't go to diagnosing the lack of charge to thinking you just need air in your tire, or your car just needs to be washed, and all I have to do is slap on a dashboard, and this is what I do, and it's good to go. And maybe something more, right? And
just mad at the car because it ain't going. I washed you. I put gas in. Like what?
What's wrong with it?
What do you want from me? Okay, listeners. Thank you again for tuning in to another Date with the Dorseys. As usual, it has been a plum-pleasing pleasure, but we got to go for now. So until next time, bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Develop a fortune state of mind. It's time for a date with a date with the Dorseys.